Hey guys, it's Christian from Lost in Discovery and welcome back to my One Piece journey. Today we'll be talking about the post-Enies lobby arc, which is chapter 431 to 441. Man, I am so glad that this 10 chapter section is counted as a separate arc in One Piece. I was a little bit skeptical, thinking like, how am I actually going to talk about 10 chapters at length and have enough to say about it? But my god, the fans know what they're talking about, because there is an abundance of character moments, story setup, world building, just a wealth of things happen in these 10 chapters, and they're probably maybe the 10 most dense chapters so far in the series. And it really did feel like the end of a saga and kind of the beginning of a new portion of One Piece. We find ourselves returning to Water 7 right where this saga began, and it kind of felt nice to be back, to see Iceberg, to see the citizens of Water 7, and to finally have them all realize that the Straw Hats are not murderous, villainous rampagers. They're pirates, but they're decent pirates, you know. And finally Water 7 saw that. You know me, I hate misunderstandings. Was very glad to see that be cleared up immediately. And in other stories where they would quickly jump to the next big plot point or the next big set piece, or really throw in some really heavy setup for the next thing, Oda always chooses to let you have some downtime with the crew after those big intense events and story and beats. You get to hang out, you get to have a party, you get to have a few chats, and that's what the first half of this arc really was. Returning to Water 7, seeing how everyone is responding to what happened at Enies lobby, and just having a freaking massive party in the aftermath, which we'll talk about in a second. Lots of cute little comedic moments as well when this started. I love that Luffy has now trained himself. He can do gear second and gear third, but the most impressive feat perhaps is feeding himself during his sleep, which is just, when people say One Piece is the greatest adventure story of all time, that scene will come to mind for sure. Another cute moment I really enjoyed, the whole crew is at the Galila Company sort of headquarters, and Chopper comes back with Robin and he reports to Sanji like, "Don't worry, I didn't let her out of my sight." And she's like, "Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere, Chopper." It was just so sweet. I love these cute little moments, and anything involving Chopper and Robin is just like, everything is adorable. And this is where we really get the setup of what's going to happen in this arc, which is going to be Franky building the Straw Hats a new ship very soon after we've said our tearful goodbye to the Neri. Lots of interesting world building tidbits here that Oda threw in. We learnt about the dual atom tree and its amazing wood that the Oro Jackson was made of, and this was Goldie Roger's ship, the only ship to circumnavigate the entire globe in One Piece as far as I understood there. So it seems kind of prophetic or very fitting and very exciting that the new ship for the Straw Hats will be built from the same thing, and luckily enough it's from their own money that Franky took in the first place. Putting that to the side for a minute, we get introduced to Vice Admiral, we get introduced to Garp. He's freaking Luffy's grandfather, and in classic Oda fashion, he drops these huge revelations on us so freaking casually. And you know what? I was having a hard time seeing how this was Luffy's grandfather until the Marines were like, "Why did you break through that freaking wall? Now we've got to fix it. You got to help us too." And he's like, "Well, I mean, that's a cooler way to enter a building." And it's like, at that moment, he's definitely related to Luffy. There's no question about it. Garp seems like an interesting old bloke, doesn't he? He's got a lot of charisma. He's a bit cheeky. He seems to have given Luffy a tough childhood, which we've seen none of at all in the manga. I watched some of these episodes in the anime too. I really love that the animation team chose to actually animate all these terrible things he did to Luffy as a child, like tying balloons to him and sending him up in the air. In classic One Piece fashion, he's just an absolutely bombastic character thrown into the mix. Again, Oda is doing these things to me where I'm trying to determine the difference between gags or world building, And we have this moment where they're both fighting, but they both fall asleep at the same time. And then it kind of hit me, Ace also used to fall asleep randomly. Is this something in Luffy's family, that they're like a narcoleptic family? They just fall asleep at random points? Maybe it's just for comedic effect. It's one of those things that, who knows, maybe in chapter 1200 they're going to be like, oh, them falling asleep is some extra power in their lineage. And if that wasn't enough, we also get confirmation from Garp. We find out that Dragon is Luffy's father. You know what, you guys are most likely aware, I took a big break from videos and a massive reading slump too. So the last time I read about Dragon was probably a year ago, maybe over a year ago at this point. I'm gonna have to go back to the videos of Logtown to see what I said about him, because I think this is where it's gonna get kind of exciting making these videos. I can actually go back and even surprise myself maybe with the foreshadowing I picked up on or didn't pick up on. I'm sure I remember saying something about Dragon, though I can't recall exactly. I'll try and see if I can splice it into this video if it doesn't make me look too stupid. But okay, it was struck by lightning to save the day at like the most crucial moment. Okay, what I'm calling right now is someone impacted that. Like, that was someone's decision. That was not the weather. That was not a freak occurrence. Like, there is gonna be a flashback at some point that's gonna be like, hey, you know why Luffy survived that? I need it to be that, because certain like Deus Ex Machina things haven't really happened in One Piece so far. There needs to be a reason for that. I hope there is. I'm very curious about this Dragon character as well, who seems to be like helping them to some degree. The Navy leader, Smoker. But yeah, it seems like Dragon is one of the most central characters in the world of One Piece. He's leading a revolution against the world government. I mean, doesn't get much more important than that. He's like the #1 outlaw in the entire world. And we briefly get a scene later where he's like, yeah, Luffy, we'll meet again soon. So there's a lot to comment on, and I feel like it would be better to talk about in the live stream, but it was amazing to learn so much about Luffy's family, and not only Luffy's family but Shanks as well, knowing that he's right in the top 4 of like the warlords as well. So it seems like Luffy's past and family is all surrounded by extremely important figures, and Luffy, he even reacts, he's like, what, I have a dad? He doesn't even know. So Luffy's a bit like, Luffy's Luffy, right? I expect him to be a bit ditzy, but the fact that he has kind of no idea about his family and never really talks about them, what's that about? I don't know. It really did start to feel like the arc of returns, because out of all the characters I didn't really expect to see in this Koby and Helmeppo, yeah, those were probably the top 2, I would say. I swear we've also talked about the Koby and Helmeppo cover stories in one of the live streams, and I remember being like, I don't really know where this is going, and it's blowing my mind to think now, in those cover stories, they were training, right? So Garp was probably in them too. So I'm starting to see the entertainment value for you guys too, because the level of restraint you must have to show when I talk about these things, and you've got like Luffy's grandfather, Luffy's father in scenes that I'm reading and talking about, and I have no bloody clue. It's already making me itch for a reread, but I'm not even halfway, so I'm just gonna have to calm down. Koby and Helmeppo have really outdone themselves. The lads have gotten fit. I mean, Koby's doing the shave technique. Garp must be incredibly skilled as well if he's trained them to this level. I love this mutual respect, interesting relationship, frenemy sort of thing Luffy and Koby have going on. And just hearing Koby talk about the new world just got my excitement levels and lust for adventure going. And watching that scene in the anime with the classic, Onto the Grand Line song playing, it was just... it captures that sense of awe and wonder that One Piece does so well. And it was very interesting seeing Nami using the transponder snails to kind of eavesdrop on this conversation, and see how the Navy attaches sea prism stone to their ships to kind of cut through, was it the Red Line? Very interesting. It kind of did remind me of Sanderson, how Oda's taking these kind of world building facts and abilities and magics, you could say, and doing like scientific approaches to them and seeing them used in ways by people in the world in a very scientific and creative fashion. And this was all the work of Dr. Vegapunk, who was also the guy apparently who figured out how to give devil fruits to inanimate objects. So I hope we meet Dr. Vegapunk and kind of see his methods, and understand a bit more of the inner workings of the magic system in this world. Let's just jump straight into the massive party at Water 7, which looked like the best time. $100 million dollar berry whatever party. Who wouldn't want to go with the Straw Hats, Gather Company, the Franky family? Man, it looked like an absolute blast. But perhaps what was the most interesting part of this scene was Aokiji's conversation with Robin. It is really hard to figure out what Aokiji's about. It was interesting to really hear that he was truly best friends with Saul, and you know, he seems to actually genuinely care for Robin's well-being. Again, like I just can't necessarily place my finger on what Aokiji's motives are. I feel like he has a very strong vision within his head about what he's about, but for us on the outside, it's kind of up to interpretation at this point. I just love how he kind of checked with Robin, like, you're good with these people, you're happy, and she confirms that, and he's like, then live your life out and show us that Ohara is still alive. I was like, wow, Aokiji with like the touching dialogue out of nowhere. I'm not prepared for this, but I'm very, very intrigued. Probably the character I'm most intrigued about at this point in the story. So we jump from Water 7, Franky's building the new ship, we're having a party over there, we've had a few reunions, and then Oda's like, hey, remember freaking Shanks? Remember Whitebeard? And gives us one of the most intriguing and thought-provoking conversations so far outside of sort of the main plot. And when you have a character like Shanks walk onto a ship and use Haki to make everybody pass out just in his presence. I don't know what Haki is, I don't know how he used it, but he just kind of walked down the, I need to learn ship terminology, but walked down the deck and everyone passed out around him, and he even cracked the wood on the ship. So that was interesting. I don't know who said it, whether it was one of Whitebeard's crewmates or Whitebeard himself, but it said you need a strong will to resist the Haki power of Shanks. And it feels like willpower is sometimes referred to as more of like a solid thing as opposed to a concept in One Piece. I'm still not sure on that, but we've heard about the will of D, we hear about willpower, now we've got this thing called Haki. I feel like Oda's building some sort of system here that I will soon understand. And perhaps one of the biggest pieces of information that truly shocked me in this scene, I knew Shanks and Buggy knew each other. I think it was right at the beginning we had that confirmed, but I didn't know, at least if I'm interpreting the context of this conversation correctly, that Buggy and Shanks weren't only on the same crew together, but they were like apprentices for Goldie Roger. Like Buggy, like Shanks okay, but Buggy, like this was the last thing I was expecting from Buggy. And even Whitebeard's like, hey, what about that red-nosed guy? What's he up to? Bloody Buggy the Clown, mate. I swear to God, he's the last character I expected to like still be relevant. I thought he was just like, you know, your level 1 boss character. You know, you beat him, have a bit of a laugh and move on. I didn't think Buggy was actually going to be important. But I'm very, very glad he is, to be honest. And I really hope that's not just like a little cameo. I hope Buggy just continues, because I love seeing, you know, seemingly inconsequential characters or characters from the beginning of a story show up way later and developed and have a whole other side to them. So there's a lot of little references, winks and kind of nudges to events in the past, events that are coming. Better to talk about in the live stream. But really the battle between Whitebeard and Shanks was something else. Like they literally split the entire sky open. No idea what that means, but I love getting glimpses of these uber powerful characters, getting teasers about what's going on with Blackbeard, what's going on with this like sort of race to the top in the pirate hierarchy and the ways of the past and the ways of the future. We'll have to talk about it more in depth, as I said, on the live stream, because I'm just going to ramble now, but this was a very engaging scene nonetheless. I truly loved this reveal of the new bounties for all of our Straw Hats. The two biggest highlights, you know what I'm going to say, was Sanji's face, whatever the hell that rendition was. Perfect for the lover boy who just wants to meet all the beautiful women in the world, to have this ridiculous portrait of himself because the photographer didn't have a lens cap on. And Chopper's cute little 50 berry bounty, and he's so upset about it. He's like, dude, I'm manned up, I did all this stuff. And you think about it, yeah, Chopper's insane in this arc, and he's like, I just got 50 berries, that's it. And he's listed as a pet, Beautiful moment. I think it literally gave Sanji a psychotic break in the chapters that followed and the scenes that followed, but it's brilliant. I love this bounty system. So simple, yet so effective, and I just can't wait to see those numbers go up. I want to see them go up as high as they possibly can. And I mean, Nami Snap's a great pick as well, which is good for her. She's living her best life. The next huge moment in this arc was the reveal of the Straw Hats' new ship, the 1000 Sunny, and this was just such an endearing scene, and it did so much work to kind of tie up a lot of what needed to be tied up with in regards to Franky's story at this point. Just from first impressions of the ship, I haven't been able to see the amazing interior of it, which Oda has promised to reveal in the next cover stories. But man, it has a lawn, it's got a slide, it's got this incredible kitchen, it's got Nami's tangerine trees. It looks amazing, and the figurehead is beautiful too. I'll jump to the story about how it was named in a minute. Let's just go back to Franky. You know, I was always wondering how... I know Franky was going to join more or less. I've seen him everywhere. And at this point especially as well, I was kind of like, Franky should be a part of this crew. He's kind of felt like it throughout this whole arc anyway, so let's get him involved. And, you know, I was thinking, like, how the hell are they gonna convince this guy? Because he's so attached to Water 7, and he's passed with Tom and Iceberg, and most importantly, the Franky family. Like, he's a loyal guy. And the last thing I expected was for them to take his Speedos and have a chase through the entire city. And the fact that this heartfelt goodbye and realization and kind of breakthrough moment for Franky happened whilst being bottomless the entire time is a testament to how skillful Oda is as a writer. That could have easily made the entire thing completely ridiculous, but it was still just as touching, just as heartfelt, and just as nuanced as ever. He just happened to have no Speedos at the time. Chopper, I don't know how you grab them with your mouth. You can use your human hands, but I mean, whatever suits you, Chopper, you go for it, buddy. It was in the heat of the moment, no judgment. I just felt like Iceberg truly, and the Franky family too, but Iceberg especially really saw what Franky needed here. He wanted to go. He just didn't want to abandon his family that he's made. But Iceberg knew the words to say to Franky. He knew what was holding him back. He said to him, "Tom has forgiven you. Go and live your dreams." And I relate to Franky because he's got this kind of put together exterior, not that I do, but he cries at all the heartfelt moments. That's exactly me, and I just found this so touching. And just seeing the story about how it was named by Iceberg as well, and how it was kind of a joke. This figurehead's meant to be the king of beasts, but it kind of just looks like a sun, and they're going to sail 1,000 seas. It was just very touching, very sweet, very in tone with the Straw Hats kind of mantra. And what I loved in this portion was the debacle of how, or whether Usopp is going to rejoin the crew, and how the crewmates are going to handle that. And it really felt like Zoro set the tone for this entire sort of conundrum. And Zoro, especially during this saga, has proved himself to be the absolute best second mate anybody could ask for. You know, I don't know whether he said it earlier in Water 7 saga or in this arc in particular, but he's like, look, Luffy, this guy's an idiot, but he's still our captain. And Usopp disrespected our captain. He made a choice. If he's gonna come back and we don't say anything and we don't get an apology, like he doesn't open with, you know, begging on his hands and knees and saying, I was in the wrong, I apologize, well then I'm gonna leave next, which is a whoa, like that's, you know, that really does set the tone. And you can't argue with it, because he's right. As soon as the status quo is lost here, it's just a complete, how do I say this without swearing? It's when, you know, stuff hits the fan, this is the phrase I'm thinking of. You know, he's so on point that even your boy Sanji agrees, and this is a rare moment between those two. We have this incredible chase sequence as they're leaving Water 7 full of tears and joy and the thirst for adventure ahead of them, as Grandpa Luffy throws cannonballs with his hands as they leave. I found Usopp incredibly annoying during this whole sequence. Going through all these mental gymnastics, convincing himself the Straw Hat's gonna be like, oh, please come back, Usopp. I hated this sort of arrogance he had. I know it's him not dealing with his issues and it's like an exterior thing, but my god, I found it so... I kind of get like some of the Usopp hate in the community now, and Look, he came through in the end, but at this moment I was like, for God's sake, Usopp, stop with the nonsense. Even the boys were like, I don't hear you. I don't hear anything you're saying. But it was only until he apologized and said it was his fault, and he manned up and he admitted his faults, as he should. Luffy and him just bursting into tears, and him grabbing him and pulling onto the ship was such a fantastic moment. And it just kind of felt like at this very moment in One Piece, everything is okay. We've got all the crew together. We've got Franky. We've got Robert in such a better place. Usopp's gone through his whole like multiple personality thing, and he's kind of back now. It just feels like anything and everything is possible. Seeing them fly off into the sky, Garp's like, hey, that's not too bad. Aokiji's impressed. Koby's fist bumping. It was just such a wholesome scene and such a beautiful ending to this saga. And we have two last things to talk about. The first one, which I enjoyed so much, was seeing everyone from the past react to the new bounties, and they all got their own page and their own dialogue about it. And we started off with Vivi in Alabasta, who we've seen in some of the cover stories, but it was great to finally get a proper conversation. And they're like, what the hell, why is Robert in their crew? But Vivi's like, don't worry, I trust Luffy no matter what. It was great to see Kazoo and all of them. Kazoo, is that the duck's name? I may have said that wrong, but it was fantastic to see all of them. I couldn't believe it. It was just overload. Baratier was back, Sanji's people. It was so, I want to go back and actually remember all those guys properly so I can engage better in that reaction, because Baratier is very, very hazy in my mind right now. It was insane to see Windmill Village and going back to the bar where it all started in chapter 1 with Luffy, like, all these characters. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been such a journey so far, and it's so fantastic to see them. It was interesting that the mayor said, did Dan know about this? Did Dan? I don't know. I was like, okay, they're setting up more of an interesting history there with Luffy and his family and this mayor. I don't know. And I can't believe we got Kaya and Usopp's little fanboy club. I can't believe he's got such a fantastic girl waiting for him at home. Usopp's, he's peaked a bit too early there. I can't believe she's really holding on for that long. I mean, he must have left quite the impression. We got Zoro, we got Nikijo, Nami's hometown. It was so heartbreaking to see her mother's grave again. It just touched on all, I'll talk about this more in the live stream, but it was amazing to see how much it touched on all these old cornerstones that we've been through, and it really gave me a sense of how far we've come. And who couldn't be touched by the moment where Dr. Kuriha's like, I don't care what Chopper's bounty is or what's going on, I'm just happy to see his face. Like, how could you argue with that? It's just brilliant. And finally, the ending of this arc, which seems to be a huge key moment. It even says in the narration that this will set up events to come, and it is known as a big moment in the world of One Piece. This was Ace versus Blackbeard, which is probably the most intense in terms of power scaling fights we've seen so far in the series. Ace and Blackbeard, like all of these characters, Ace, Blackbeard, Whitebeard, Shanks, these guys seem like absolute powerhouses, and I'm very happy that Oda's like kind of drip feeding us these characters, because it would be quite a lot to kind of dump on us all at once at this point. But oh my goodness, it was so cool to see Blackbeard kind of do his villain speech, like, I only stayed with Whitebeard so long so because they were going to find this fruit, and then I killed that crew member to get it, and it's like anti-gravity fruit that creates dark matter that sucks in everything around it, including sucks away the devil fruit powers of other characters. And it was just this brilliant villain moment, and kind of like the rug being pulled under our main characters and Ace's feet, so to speak. They pretty much decimated an entire island in this fight, and Ace said he wanted to make Whitebeard the king of the pirates, which is very, very interesting. I'm not sure what to think about Ace at this point. I know he loves Luffy, but there seems to be an entire sort of pirate issue, is a very silly way to phrase it, but there seems to be an entire, I know I could phrase this better, but at this point in the week I just cannot do it. But there seems to be a whole other scenario going on that we are not privy to between these legendary pirates, and I'm so keen to learn more about it. At the moment, I'm just like a fly on the wall, being like, wow, that's pretty cool, but I have no idea where this is going or what's truly happening, and I feel like I'm not meant to at this point, and that's fine. So yeah, I think that about sums up my thoughts on the post Enies lobby arc. It was a very packed 10 chapters, as you can probably tell, and I probably still miss things out. But that is why the live streams are so fantastic to do. You guys get to remind me of things I missed, and I get to go through my notes properly and kind of touch on things I wasn't able to talk to in these videos. So it's going to be this weekend on my Saturday evening, which will, for most of you in America, be your Saturday morning. Haven't figured out exact times yet, but you'll see it scheduled. I'll make a community post, and if you follow me on Twitter, you'll hear about it there too. And it looks like this time I'll be having a special guest with me, which I will save as a surprise, but they are a friend of mine and they are a huge One Piece fan, very, very knowledgeable, and it'll be great to have someone to bounce ideas off with, hopefully, and someone like you guys really to sit with me and discuss and maybe ask me just the right questions that I need to be asked at this point in the story. As always, thank you so much for watching. You One Piece fans have been nothing but wholesome and fantastic, and it's been such a lovely time to be able to talk to you and comment online and have little discussions, because you know it's kind of hard to find people, even though One Piece is massive. This has been the only way I've been able to talk about it, so thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and especially those of you who comment as well. Hope you've been well, and I'll see you back with the physical volumes on to the next arc and saga. Bye.